Hey, everybody, welcome again to eChannel News. We've got Richard Dean, Senior Director of Product Management at Syncro. And we're going to dig into his background and find out what makes him tick and what's going on at Syncro. Welcome, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you doing, Julian? It's nice to
It's
meet you.
a pleasure meeting you. So you got the lights in the background. You're ready for that disco feeling, I guess, but it's a modern day
I
disco,
mean,
isn't it?
we're launching. We're
Yeah,
launching next week. So I
there
mean,
you go.
got some excitement going on. Got the synchro colors, or the new synchro colors. So yeah, trying to,
It's
create that
amazing.
excitement because next week's gonna be crazy.
It's a new world. So you're obviously getting ready for RSA and a whole bunch of stuff that's going on right now. But let's take a step back. Let's
Yeah,
talk a little bit about Rich. So, Rich,
yeah.
what makes you tick? Where did you start from, and how did you get at Syncro, and why Syncro?
So how long is this podcast? I don't want to take
Could
up
be a
that
couple
whole
hours if you
time.
want.
The
We can
long
go Joe
form.
Rogan on it and go three
Yeah,
hours.
exactly. Yeah, 3.5 hours, see if we can beat his record. Yeah, I appreciate the question, sir. So I've been in the Microsoft space. Well, let me back up. So I've been in IT 20 plus years to some degree, way, shape, or form. I started out simply in the mid 90s at a help desk in IBM Global Services in Tampa. Eventually, about a year later, moved into corporate IT for it's funny, it's a paper company, but it's not in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Um, and started to learn, systems engineering there. And mostly Microsoft focused, email focused, identity access management, all the things back then, print servers and everything else. Got a lot of exposure in data centers, building NOCs, which were very, prevalent back
The
then.
thing.
Yeah, they definitely were like socks are today, in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. Um, but eventually went into consulting, professional services, managed services, mostly around onboarding, at least the last 15 years, onboarding people to Microsoft 365 in one shape, form, or another. And then I've also done pre-sales engineering. And the last 7 or so years, I've been doing product management. Started out as a product owner for a SaaS platform that did cross-tenant migrations and coexistence, and then moved into technical product management. Started running my own team of technical product managers, and now have graduated into Syncro and come back to my roots, I think. Now, so yeah.
Well, there you go. Man, it's probably easier to ask you what you haven't done now. So,
Well, I mean, I don't know. I've very much embraced Microsoft from the beginning. There was a lot of platforms back then, you could have gone Unix way, and then Linux was basically, in its infancy, but there was definitely that movement. And there was Microsoft, and there was some, other outliers out there to like, where do I, pin myself technologically to it's going to help my growth in the future.
you
And
picked a
luckily,
good one.
my bet one, I was like, I'm gonna go for the one that makes everybody's job easier. That's the winner. Like Linux, I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work. Like,
I think it was, still is, but so
so,
there you go. So you made some right bets. So what do you do? What's your job description like? What's your daily life like at Syncro?
well, I am new to Synchro, sir. So it's only been 4 months.
Mhm,
So it's been right into the deep end.
mhm,
We're launching next week at the Kaseya conference. And so it's been heads down building out new product,
mhm.
basically. I mean, so that's been my last 4 months. I'm starting to, really start to build a team now, so we can start supporting some of the frameworks and MVPs that we've built and start expanding those, and then start looking into the future. But I guess my main job or responsibilities is really to lead this effort for Syncro in terms of the integrations uh, to Microsoft 365 and Microsoft in general, helping them strategize where we're going, and helping to fill some of that gap and void that presently exists within Syncro itself, because it's going through its own transformation to become more of a Microsoft focused and centric ISV. So hopefully that's what I'm doing.
Well, if it's not, then you're going to change those lights behind you to some other color. Look, So let's talk a bit about the whole, mission with RMMs and PSAs and stuff, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it's been old school for a bit. I mean, that's what started the whole managed services world.
Yeah, it
But things
did.
have changed, and the incumbents haven't really done a lot to sort of like, well, they bought a lot of companies and they've sort of, glued them together somehow, and it works kind of somehow. But the world is sort of evolving, right? And there's maybe some time for some new ways of doing things. What's your thoughts generally on the PSA slash RMM slash community? And are we ready for an overhaul?
I think we are. I think the time is so important. Uh, if you look at a typical MSP today, their stack is insane. You're
Mm,
talking anywhere from 5 to 30 tools, depending on exactly what services that they're actually offering. It could even be more. And even with like some of the larger players where they have a lot of quote unquote integrations and products they bought and
mm,
bolted on to their systems, and sometimes successfully, sometimes not so successfully. And then you add on top of that, you have RMM, you have PSA, but then you add on top of that Microsoft 365's ecosystem and how that has expanded, and that has blown up how many tools you need because you have tools that focus in one area and then you have tools that focus on another area, generally probably something around management, and that's a
mm,
big scope, and
mm.
then something in security, and that's a larger scope, right? So that's kind of where everything sits right now. So that, we're under enormous pressure, right? We have hybrid work, right? We have uh, escalating security threats and a changing landscape there too. Uh, Endpoints and network used to be what MSPs focused on, but MSPs need to start focusing not only on those signals, they need to also start locking down and looking at the signals coming from their identity systems, because that's where they're being actually attacked every single day. Because it's much easier to pwn a system through ID, stolen credentials, bought credentials, or just phishing someone than it
Mm.
is to break into a device through a port or
Yeah.
look through a firewall through open, exits. So it's just a different world. So I mean, I don't know if that answers the
Yeah,
question.
well, look, but Rich, even if you sprinkle in, AI into the whole mix,
Oh
the
my
game
God.
just the game just
Oh,
changed
that's
yet
yeah.
again.
And that's just in its infancy, brother.
Yeah.
Like we don't know. We can only anticipate the ripple effects of that right now. It's going to become ubiquitous to everything.
Mm,
And I don't think, like right now, that market is a lot because of LLMs, is a lot of like focus on co-pilots and things like that. The front end, because that's the new shiny thing, the front end, in terms of AI. But I think eventually that will change things, but eventually everything will have its underlying built on AI. When you start looking at product development, the future product development is slim front ends with interactive chatbots or agents that, you know, everything is done on its own. Like it's going to change the industry completely. Now, when that happens, I, you know, mm,
just
I,
use my words sooner than later.
it
You never know.
is sooner rather than later. I love that. I'm taking it. I'm coining it.
Every time I think, oh no, we were another year ahead from that. Oh, really not? No, it's here. It's the way it is. So obviously the world's changed, and AI has certainly been the biggest change agent, right, that we've seen. And the challenges for MSPs is to stay ahead of the curve, right? MSPs cannot be behind the curve because they're responsible, right, for taking their clients right to the next level. It used to be basic digital transformation, get
Hmm.
your groceries at the curb, type thing, and that was a big deal. Now
Yep.
it's like, whoa, we got cybersecurity attacks on a daily basis, and you've got a lot of headwinds, to say the least. And we wouldn't even mention the word tariffs. We're just going to say that other thing. We got more headwinds,
Confusion. Let's just call it confusion.
confusion. We got more confusion and headwinds than we've ever had to deal with. Could you ever thought of a time when an MSP, right, would be juggling so many balls, Like now we've got compliance and regulations and cyber insurance. Can you imagine an MSP talking to a company about cyber insurance? I mean, come
Yep.
on, it's a lot, isn't it?
It is. It's unfathomable. I mean, the transformation that MSPs are going through and how much more that they have to take on in terms of responsibility. They've really become the enterprise model.
Yeah.
Like they're doing the same exact job at a different scale with the same problems, but nuanced differences, right? In priorities even. But it's all the same. It's
You
all the
can even
same thing.
argue, Rich, it's even more complicated because they're doing it for many
Yeah, that's
unusual
true.
companies, right? I mean, normally when you're working for one organization, you know how the animal breeds,
Yep.
right? So you could figure that out,
Very
but
good
they're
point.
dealing with A, B, C, D, and they're all completely different.
Yep.
But it's suffice to say
I
that,
think they'll become more specialized as they go too, right? And a lot of
yeah,
MSPs will focus in on specific industries or specific segments like security.
yeah,
So
they're
I think
certainly
that's the
trying to get
winning
that
formula.
right for sure. And
Yeah.
and these days, I would think you'd agree that no MSP could really exist if it wasn't a cybersecurity first state of mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is the biggest job. And I think that's where the future of their services are as well. If they aren't already providing some area around that service, they need to continue to extend around those services. They need to understand where those opportunities are. And I hope that's, part of what we're helping them do. So,
Absolutely. So let's dig into that. So obviously, you guys see where the market's headed, right? And you've got this thing called a XMM. So first of all, do we don't need another, acronym, but hey, let's add one more.
we all love acronyms,
Not
just
all, but yeah.
just following the trail of giants. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, thanks for the question. I appreciate it, Julian. XMN, as many probably have guessed or would guess, it stands for Extended Management and Monitoring, which is right an evolution of RMM. Like you were leaning back to what you were saying, it started the MSP market, right? And the MSP market needs to change, and this is that change, I hope, is extending management and monitoring to do, I think, three things. It's really combining RMM as it is today, but
Mhm.
also extending that and seeing where we complement Microsoft in particular areas. Taking built-in PSA, so ticketing, invoicing, utilization, billing, all of that, so you can actually track your IT work and actually, see how your IT teams are doing and your business is doing. But underneath all of that is really putting Microsoft 365 at that center or at that core. So the combination of RMM, PSA, and 365 together, I think, tells the bigger story of what extended management and monitoring hopes to be. But it's about, a single platform and a single experience, probably is a better description than platform. I don't
Mhm.
know, the word platform is overused. So a single experience to be able to operate your business, be able to serve your customers, and be able to work where you're the tools that you need and the insights and the information that you need at your fingertips in one place instead of moving around
Mhm.
across all this ecosystem with many identities and more identities and more problems and more security holes and more risks. Like, so that I think that's really what XMM inspires to be, is that full umbrella, for lack of a better term, that really puts together the existing tools that the MSPs need today, endpoint management, and extending that endpoint into unified endpoint management, looking at the business and the operation, streamlining all those workflows and automations into it, and then at the center, 365.
Well,
So,
we're going to double click on the 365 component, but just
yeah,
zooming out a little bit here.
yeah.
Why do you think this matters to MSPs? I mean, they've got tools. God
They
knows
got
they got a
tools.
lot of tools,
Yep.
right?
I
And
think that's part of the problem is
so what
they
what is
have
the problem, and why do you think they need this?
Yeah, that is part of the problem. You hit it right on the head, right? There is silo tools, single point tools. They have tools that they're buying, enterprise level tools that cost thousands of dollars in subscription fees. Then they're using 20% of that particular tool because they need that 20%, and there's no one else out there that's really addressing those particular gaps
Mm.
to where they can afford it. So that just fragmentation, that siloed, loose integrations. We have customers that are putting, on top of like 30 tools, on top of that, they're putting Roost. And they're and automating those and adding another layer of complexity because again, the tools that they have are dispersed, they're loosely integrated, they're coupled together, and they're not all in the one place that most technicians and engineers are working today, at least in the channel, is ticketing and alerting. So
Mm.
depending on what you're doing, maybe it's both, depending on the size of what you're doing, but they're working in tickets. That's the work they do. That's how they invoice. That's how they track. And they're coming through signals, whatever signals that they're pumping into their systems and that they're paying attention to for the services that they provide. That's where they live. So we need to be able to provide that center place for them to live. So I
Yeah.
think that's one big part of the problem overall. So,
Yeah, Richard, when MSP told me, and I really, death by 1,000 tools, it, it was like he was showing me how many tools they're using. At some point, he stopped and he go, I feel like I'm dying from a
well,
thousand
you know
tools.
what amazes me, Julian, is the innovation that I've seen MSPs pull together in the space that they're in because of that particular space, being able to couple things together, come up with workarounds, do
Yep.
their own automations, like build their own solutions in-house. Like it amazed me with the resources that they have, they're still able to get the job done. But I think we can make it easier for them. So I
Yeah.
hope.
I think you're in the right vein because the reality is they're kind of like on their own. You can't just walk into a store and buy what they need, right? So they go, man, this is pretty bad. I got it this. I want to add that, but if I add this, this doesn't work, and they start just building their own Frankenstein in a way, right? And because they know how they build the Frankenstein, they kind of understand how to navigate Frankenstein, right? But boy, if you bring someone else new and say, here's Frankenstein, how do you manage it? It's not quite as transparent as they would like to, and of course that causes them in time. It causes them in the quality of the work. It causes them to be more susceptible to attacks. And my biggest one is that it just makes them less time as a human.
Oh my
They
God,
just suck
yes.
up their time. The mental stress and the humanness that they have is sort of evaporated, and they're just working like 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. And because of this tool thing, it kind of gets a job done to some degree, but how to get there is sort of a bit crazy. And from what I gather, Syncro is sort of trying to bridge a gap, between that. Is that about right?
I think it is. You again, you hit it on the head. Like we are trying to bridge that gap. I mean, the the sheer volume of complex tasks, complex projects, and initiatives that are timely. Think about right now with the announcement that Windows 10 is end support in October. You know
Mm.
how many specific projects are going on right now to scramble to get MSPs or get their customers over to Windows 11 so they don't have to extend support. It is monumental. Like, and that's just one aspect of a timely thing. And you're still talking about a market that has mostly 68, I think, percent of the Windows market is still Windows 10. So there's millions of machines that need to be upgraded or retired and a new one issued for Windows 11. So those that's one aspect of it. And then they have their entire daily operations to run. So they're not just running the daily part of IT, taking in requests to onboard a new customer or reset a password. While they're doing all of that, they're also doing all of these custom and special projects that are so timely. So being able to build or being able to bring together something that starts to alleviate some of that pain and really focuses in on those opportunities like that and helping them bridge those gaps, I think that's our mission.
Well, I think it's going to be 2028, and we'll still be talking about Windows 10 being, slowly
You know
retired
how
by
you know how
2029.
Microsoft works in their retirement of operating systems.
It's
It's like a hard line.
no,
Pay me
nobody ever
more,
retires.
and then we'll extend it, and then maybe next year I'll extend it again. But we'll see. We'll see what.
Yeah. But for sure,
But
this is
for
going to be the
sure, by
day. This,
2028, it's happening.
I get it. It's interesting. When you look at the Microsoft component, obviously most MSP businesses are built around Microsoft product. It's just
Yeah,
dominated the whole
yeah.
world in the last 5 years in particular. Um, when you look at what do you think your solution is going to do to help them to put some kind of sense back into managing that Microsoft beast? And I use
I
a
mean,
beast in a nice way.
I mean, we're introducing a lot of different for the launch and the MVP. I mean, we're starting with the basics, right? We're in terms of integrations. We're really focusing on the cloud service or solution providers, the Microsoft MSP or program, CSP program, and then single tenants as well. So being able to fast onboard them, and actually start to consume the information and get the permissions allowed. So that's the first basic, where we're hitting the mark. Like we have to start integrating into that data itself.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're providing a swift, seamless transition for them to start onboarding those customers into Syncro itself. And then we're focusing in on Entra ID, of course. We built our own custom synchronization tool that is at the beginning synchronizing identities like users and guests, the information from those particular users, so we can start to bring those insights into Synchro itself. So, we'll have all our end users or contacts that normally the customer is manually creating or manually importing. Now they can just start to synchronize all of those user objects from those directories automatically. So saving them time, energy, money, all of that. And then again, bringing in the insights for those particular users, like their licensing, where they're at in terms of, their mailboxes, their OneDrives, things like that. We have integrations into Microsoft Defender for alerts and threat signals, like we were talking about earlier. We intend to continue to extend there. And then probably the most exciting thing, or at least the thing that I've been working on the most since I've got to Syncro, is offering the beginning of security posture management, which we're calling security baselines. So ability to assess an environment and their security posture, be able to monitor that environment for drift and change or unauthorized change, and then be able to respond to those changes now with notifications and alerts, but in the future with automations and playbooks to where those will be built into ticketing and built into alerting again, so we can take that entire workflow to where when they get alerts and they get in ticket and they're going through these actions, they can start to bill it, invoice it, and remediate it and automate that remediation or give them that extensibility. So
Well,
that's
Rich, that doesn't sound like a lot.
man, I can't even imagine like before I got the Synchro, I like it's mind-boggling how much work the teams have actually completed. I
Mm.
mean, and even from an MVP perspective, and I mean, I'm being biased, but from an MVP perspective, it's more than I would have, me personally, if I were the person that had made that decision, I would have said, okay, let's start with these two things.
Mm.
And they're like, no, let's be more bold. Let's be broader. Let's start putting the, pedal to the metal. So let's go for, let's go for security posture management and start looking at that area because that's a ripe area for new services, new opportunities, but also what we were talking about earlier. There's a lot of single point solutions out there in that space that aren't integrated in any type of way.
Mm.
And being able to bring, like I said, ticketing, alerting, and automation and remediation, that extensibility into it, I think sets us apart or will set us apart. So.
You're doing a lot of stuff, my friend, and you're right. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and somebody's got to figure out how they all work together. But if you had to pick one thing that MSPs, obviously you're talking with MSPs all day long, right?
Mhm.
What's the one thing that they're saying? Wow, this is the game changer. This is what we need. This
Yeah,
and we need it now.
yeah, I think the best feedback or the most prominent feedback I've gotten, or most consistent, I should say, has been around security baselines. That most of the MSPs I presented this to, even at the early stages, see a lot of opportunity in two places for them particularly. Um, First is offering new services around this where they haven't been offering this before, and it's a good entry level for them. And we're trying to focus on standardized frameworks like SIS and NIST to
Mm.
where it takes away all of that learning curve from them. So some guided remediations, for lack of a better term. So being able to provide that for the customer, and then uh, uh, being able to provide our customers branded assessments, right? That's is another one we've heard a lot of good feedback on being able to run a security posture assessment for onboarding new customers and for enticing new customers to be able to use it as a pre-sales tool to be able to say, okay, let's run a security posture assessment on your environment. Here's a report. Let's walk through this report together. Let's talk about the inefficiencies. Let's talk about where we can help you walk through this. And a part of what we've tried to deliver in that assessment area, at least for the MVP, is making it a conversation piece and simplified. Because if you look at standard audits, PIMs or pen tests, or even a 365 standard audit, like most of it's for an auditor. Like it's
You need a
pretty
degree to figure it
it's
out.
pretty harsh
Yeah.
to read. So we're trying to simplify that for sure, because again, it's trying to make assessments as part of a sales tool and an onboarding process so they can start to bring out new services. But the secondary piece is the customers that have those other standalone tools sticking out there. They want to be able to save costs on those extra subscriptions, come down, bring it down to Syncro at an affordable subscription rate, and only focus in on what they actually need instead of that 100 or 80% that they're not using. So I think that's kind of the
Yeah.
two things that I've heard overall. Of course, like centralizing common tasks like resetting passwords and resetting MFA and onboarding and offboarding automation, all of those I've heard great things about. But but I think a lot of that is table stakes. We need to start providing it. We need to centralize this to bring people to Syncro. But in terms of like uh, expanding their services and streamlining their
Mm.
services, reducing costs and creating some efficiencies. Baselines are security posture management. I've seen the most favorable reviews.
It makes sense. When we talk to MSPs and MSSPs, they always talk to us about we want better consolidation. We want simplicity for real, not for fake. We want for real. We want better integration because that's where they're burning the time. And that's where their posture, drops, right? Because they're not quite sure. Do I have it all? So much tickets coming through. What's really real? How do I prioritize that? There's
Mhm.
a lot of moving parts, and of course, they all have tools that they've maybe already is invested in, so they don't want to, cut and right away. So, what's your integration strategy? Are you allowing channel partners? Do you have a way to bring some of the tools that they're using that they like into your platform too?
Oh yeah, there's definitely I think we have, I don't know, shoot, I'm gonna say some outrageous number. I know
Thousand.
500. Current integrations into those third-party tools that they're hopefully using today. And we're always taking in that feedback to see where those integration points are, to where those things make sense. Even with other PSAs, right?
Mhm.
We integrate with PSAs because there's a lot of investment in a certain area, but we want them to still be able to take advantage of a lot of the other things that we're providing value for and still allow them to work within that ecosystem. But I think at the center, what we're trying to do is again bring that 365 center to where we're offering them that multi-tenant management value on top of our RMM, and maybe they're still using their own PSA, right? And then maybe they're using, of course, they're using some sort of backup and restore, and we want to be able to look at those integrations. So again, because that signal information is crucial to be in ticketing and alerting within our system where we want them sitting. So
Yeah, it makes sense. At some point, they've got to figure out, right, where their future lies. As we have a saying here, with Gretzky, you got to go to where the puck is going to be, not where the puck is right now.
yeah,
So, at some point, you got to figure out if what you're doing makes sense, and how the whole evolution of the market space is changing, and what do you need to, be there for when, your clients need all this crazy stuff. And as we talked about before with AI, we don't even know where it's
no.
going to be, right? So to be continued, right?
That's right. I mean, so this is funny. One of my old co-hosts from podcasting, my last podcast, um, we were at a conference together, and he's like, "Hey, Rich," he's like, "I found an app that's going to replace us." He's like, "Look at this thing." He's
Please
like,
let me know.
"It does podcasting and it's interactive." He's like, "It's crazy." So I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know, man." He's like, "I said we're all eventually some sort of replaceable." Like
I
so.
can't wait, man, to be replaced. I'm going to create a
As,
virtual.
as long as the check keeps coming, I'm all for it, brother. I'm all for it, brother.
I'm going to have a virtual size of me, and people could do whatever they want to do, man.
Well, I mean, honestly, in my day-to-day work since for the last 3 years, I mean, I augment everything I do with AI to
Yeah,
some AI. I mean,
yeah,
I
I
don't
know. It's
like practicing or like refreshing for this interview. I used AI to like take my morning walk and say, okay, go ahead and interview me. And I gave him the questions. Like
I
so.
get it, man. We swim in AI as well. As a matter of fact, some days I have to take a drink at the end of the day because I'm all AI'd out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It is
It,
it is
it
insane.
definitely makes the life getting away from the computer easier because like I'm done. I can't. Or they cut you off. I got cut off today. They're like, you've used up your limit. Goodbye.
Well, then you're using too much. Um,
Yeah.
Rich, I leave you with the last word, friend. What do you want everybody out there to know about Syncro, and what can they expect?
I think they can expect a lot of exciting new things coming from Syncro. Again, we're going through a transformation to become a Microsoft-centered solution provider. I think our co-innovation and our partnership with Microsoft is maybe different than some of the other opportunities and other partnerships out there. We're not just, consuming their IP or their APIs. We're really co-innovating and trying to see where those gaps really are in the small and medium business for MSPs and that channel so that we can focus in on those particular gaps because honestly Microsoft is an enterprise company. They build enterprise tools. They do have, of course, things like Lighthouse, but the small and medium business, there's lots of gaps where it's not prudent for them to fill those gaps. So they need real partners like Syncro to be able to innovate in those areas so that Microsoft and Syncro really complement each other. Our two solutions start to really complement each other so that we can start to bridge that gap and bring customers and make their life living within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem easier, more efficient, right? And then eventually what that hopefully leads to is better profitability and new services and expansion, right? Because that's what we all want to do is grow.
And
So
better life, right, Richard?
yeah, Yeah,
There
yeah.
you-
Balance.
yeah,
Balance.
a balanced
Balance.
life, not a better life, a balanced life, a correct word,
Yes.
that's for sure.
Yeah, I got a pretty dang good life. I mean, I can't complain. So
Yeah.
balance though would be way awesome.
No balance, no nothing, my friend. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Microsoft is the largest cybersecurity company in the world, right?
Yes.
And learning how to leverage that machine, right, can go a long way. And of course, MSPs, they need to figure this thing out to do better. So hopefully, this is the next step in that right direction.
Yeah.
Syncro.com, I believe, is the website address.
It's syncromsp.com.
See, mess that
MSP
one
in
up.
the name.
There
Boom.
you go. Then there's no room for miscommunication there. It's a
That's right. That is our focus.
syncromsp.com. There you go.
That's right. It's who we serve. That's for sure, brother.
Rich, it's been a pleasure. Keep us posted, man. Cheers.
It's been a pleasure, Julian. Nice meeting you, sir. Thank you very much. Have a great
Cheers.
day.